So regarding the difficult, leaky handheld shower spray for this HiMark shower and for the shower head, my shower head is going above my two panels, so it's not as crucial. And of course, water, it doesn't tend to dribble there because I have a long shower mast, but water will definitely tend to dribble all over this thing. So I cut out this 2x4 and I'm using PEX, so I have a lot of flexibility. And keep in mind, with these tapered pipe threads, you can't exactly dry fit them because they tighten down a different amount depending on how much Teflon tape you use. I would start off with one roll, one twirl, and if you're not far enough in, then maybe add a little more tape. So as recommended by some folks, I bought all these crazy adapters in case I had to move the fitting out farther, especially on the shower handle, which is a little more critical. I also dug this hole in my 2x4 in case I had to set this way back. Pretty sure I'll be okay with my rubber gaskets. If you were doing this on an interior wall, you could fiddle around with this from the other side, but it's a hallway on the other side, so if I had access to that after I'd attached this to the panel, I could go back here and work with the drop ears and the 2x4 to get them just snug. It wouldn't be real easy, but it would be possible. But I have to do everything from the front. As many people noted, the leaks from this handheld shower piece are a couple. Even if it's tightly against the wall, the water could leak in from this side, and then it could go through the hole to the back side, or of course it could just go, the water could go down there. And if you spend a fortune on waterproofing and cement board like I have, in theory the water will still be inside of a waterproof membrane, but I don't think anybody wants water leaking inside their fittings. So someone suggested a longer thread, I think, would solve most of the problem. Maybe some instructions on how to seal this against the wall, and not make it, you know, ugly, because it's really a beautiful piece. The other thing is the shark bite. If you're ready to trust it, I'm not. Most people do trust it. I've had the pressure on a long time, but you have all of this flexibility. You can twist and turn and make these tiny little adjustments that I think would be kind of crucial on this handle fitting. I think a lot of people run in trouble because they're up against hard copper and it's just off by a quarter inch and you try to caulk it, but getting the final location is just so sweet, having this flexibility. Twist it both in and out, flexible, change the angle in all 360 degrees. For mounting the drop ear, this little guy, I just have the 2x4 kind of sitting on a little shelf I made out of screws. I can move it backward and forward. Try a new position, stick the dog ear in place, and bring down this template that includes the panel I'm using and the cement board. I've also screwed this in with Teflon tape, so I know it's not going to go much farther in. Oh, I want it to have a little bit of clearance, and then I need it, I'll use a rubber gasket. So there you have a little tiny bit of clearance. And the 2x4 needs to come out a little farther. So if you're not only an amateur plumber but also a comedian, just a reminder that sawing a 2x4 3/4 of the way through almost always brings the house down. Get it? I'm on the top floor, and I have this side piece that's where I attach the drop ear, and that should prevent the house from coming down. So when putting up your waterproofing, you really want to use gloves, because you wind up doing a lot of this pushing to get the waterproofing to soak through the paper tape, and it'll be on your hands for a month if you get too much of it on. It's no small matter in propping these things up until they dry. You can't sit there and hold them for an hour or two. I guess 30 minutes is what they suggest. Also, I would suggest putting the up and down trim pieces in first, because I had to take this sandpaper and remove part of the panel to get the side trim pieces plumb. And if they're not more or less plumb all the way to the top, they'll look funny. So I would put them in, and then I would install the panels and cut them to fit as close as possible, keeping in mind part of your cut will be hidden back there. But your cut in the corner will not be hidden, so you may wind up, like I did, tiny gaps. I actually had to cut this piece as a slight trapezoid because there was an unexpected bump in the otherwise plumb wall over there. And this stuff also scratches pretty easily, so propping it can be a difficult issue. I like the screws with the washers. Obviously rubber washers underneath metal would be preferred. And luckily, after trimming the tiny piece off the end of the back, it fit perfectly. It was set up to be trimmed. The side pieces are another matter though. They're also too long, and there is no simple line like there was on the, where you can cut all the way through it without cutting the tile. This piece had a half-inch one at the edge where there was a seam all the way through. But on the side pieces, I'm going to have to figure out how to cut right through the tiles. And their suggestion was, take it Home Depot. Maybe they'll cut it for you, even though I bought it at Lowe's. Also, when I ran out of their one tube of RTV, ASI 335 RTV, they recommended that I could use this silicone 2 plus. And that's all I remembered when I went to the store, and they said, what's it for? I said, well, it's for a shower. So if you want the bathroom or the door and window stuff, and I said, well, I guess I want the bathroom. But when I went back to read the email, it said to buy the 100% silicone for door and window. I did some research, and they're both supposed to have excellent adhesion. I guess the door and window must be better. I don't know, but we'll see. Maybe this adhesion is a little bit flexible, but I've done the two end pieces in it, so we'll see. But anyway, when you run out, not if you run out of their one tube of RTV, you'll have to decide for yourself whether you want the door and window or the bathroom silicone. I was also told that you might find RTV silicone as well as any gaskets you might want to make, which I'm considering I might need to do at auto parts store, since their problems are even worse than plumbers. I haven't tried them for RTV or gaskets, but that's what someone suggested. Also not a bad idea to indicate where your studs are after you hide them. Also, I agree with the people who say it's silly to hang visqueen or plastic behind the cement board as a vapor barrier, allowing the cement board itself, which is pretty absorbent. Water, if you put water on it, it'll sit there and appear to soak in. And rather to coat the inside of it with something like Aqua Defense, which is what that is, about $50. Especially have to paint over the seams with this special cloth, that stuff. And I just painted over most of the cement board because I didn't know what else I was going to use with the gallon. Most people don't seem to paint over the whole cement board, yet it would seem not to be 100% moisture barrier if you didn't without visqueen behind it. So another thing to be neurotic about. I have a little Aqua Defense left, and I'm pretty sure if I wouldn't have put so many coats on, I could have coated the whole thing, not just the taped parts. And I have a little left, so I can complete some of that, maybe not all of it, but probably all of it. I'm not going to spend another $50 to paint a square foot of an area that is probably never going to get wet. Unless, of course, the skylight leaks. Oh, I'm overthinking this problem. So while this is plumb and level on top, I had to cut this side piece as a slight trapezoid going up in the corner and down in order to keep it level on top and not have a very big crack. I could have put a piece in there to fill the crack, but I thought I'd try the trapezoid method, so that seemed to have worked okay. These lines, that one matches up perfectly and that one doesn't. Again, not to worry about it. I think their theory was, and this stuff scratches pretty easily, but once you walk in the bathroom, your eye's drawn to the tile. And with a fancy door, which I haven't put on yet, I think you won't notice the minor dings in the panel. If you're wondering about these fittings sticking out so far, those are just indicators of where I'm going to put the shower head and the shower handle. I thought I was going to need them and set the fittings way back in the wall, but for now they're just indicators, placeholders. While sitting on the floor examining my propped up trim pieces, I noticed that my tile has this tiny bow overhanging the panel below. It's not sharp, it's not something you can cut yourself on, and probably with grout and maybe a little caulk, it'll be okay. I'm not going to pull it off and try to glue it down harder. But never underestimate the power of just sitting on the floor resting and staring at the problem. And by the way, when you get tired of the problem, go away and do something else until the love or something like it returns. I have two choices with this tile. I either have to cut it off with a diamond blade or get someone to do it for me. or maybe some people say the carbide blade that I bought to cut these panels will work. Gotta somehow clamp it down. If I needed a bigger cut, it's most of the way cut through right there. If I needed a really big cut, I could just take my hacksaw and go through this. But I don't need that. And I can vary a little bit because it's hiding behind the molding. But I don't think it can vary that much. The other thing I thought about was, since it only overhangs like a ½ inch, you could route out maybe a groove underneath the cement board, but routing cement board isn't a popular YouTube video, and I don't have a router. And I thought about making several low chop saw cuts and maybe trying to chisel it out, but I have no idea how this will react. It's pretty brittle.